this is my review of Sonic X. Okay, so in this episode, Chris and the gang, along with Danny, Francis, and Mr. Stewart, decide to go camping in the wilderness outside of Mr. Tanaka's hometown in Japan. So they go to Japan and take a bus out to Mr. Tanaka's hometown, where they then go camping in the wilderness nearby. So basically we get to see Mr. Tanaka's hometown, and it's about what I expected. He's Japanese. It's a very Japanese hometown, and it makes sense. The only person who doesn't actually go camping, quote unquote, camping, is Sonic, who is there, but instead of going camping because he's not really a good camper, instead decides to visit Mr. Tanaka's town and just see the sights and pick up some souvenirs while he's out. So we don't see much of him, but he does eventually show up by the end of the episode to do a thing. So yeah, everybody goes to the campsite and everybody sets up and has a good time. But then things go to take a turn for the terrible when Cheese accidentally gets swept up in a water stream nearby, and starts floating down the river. And Cream is notably very panicked because she's very, very close with Cheese, and the fact that her best friend just got swept up in a river and disappeared. It terrifies her a little bit, because now she's worried sick about Cheese and where he's gone. So, and sure enough, everybody except Amy and Mr. Tanaka go out to actually go look for Cheese, and with Mr. Tanaka and Amy staying behind to prepare dinner for when they eventually come back. And sure enough, everybody begins investigating through the wilderness, which catches the attention of Dr. Eggman, who is nearby with Deco and Boko and is on his own vacation of sorts. And here's the thing. He's immediately confused as to what's going on. He doesn't understand that they're looking for Cheese. So here's what he thinks. Bokun shows up, tells him that there's something that he should be aware of. He goes to investigate and discovers that they're searching for something, which is Cheese. But he believes they're searching for a Chaos Emerald, and notably becomes very, very upset because he realizes there was a Chaos Emerald under his nose this whole time and he didn't realize it. So sure enough, he has Deco unpack his selection machine, which for whatever reason he packed with him, and picks a robot, his E66 Daigo, which is basically just this really giant robot that looks like a dome and has bases for hands. It looks kind of goofy, but I like it. It looks goofy, but it doesn't. It's a little weird. But in case they eventually find a cave in the river in which the river goes through, and sure enough the kids go through the tunnel because they quickly realize that Mr. Stewart isn't able to fit. But Mr. Stewart, because he's kind of a secret agent, is able to track Chris's movements with a special tracking device that he planted on him without Chris's knowledge, I think. Sure enough, he's able to keep an eye on them that way. Eventually he does lose signal, and he becomes worried and heads back to camp to tell Mr. Tanaka and Amy what happened. So, but in any case, they actually wind up going through the tunnel, and to everybody's surprise, there's a Chao garden just on Earth for no discernible reason. I think the explanation in the Japanese version of this is that the Chao just exist on both Sonic World as well as Earth, and the explanation is just that Chao can just be found anywhere where there's fresh water. So they're just kind of on Earth with no real explanation. So yeah, they just exist on both planets apparently. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but I'm willing to go with it. So yeah, the Chao are just there. But eventually they do manage to figure out which of the Chao is actually Cheese, and sure enough, Cheese is happy that he made some new friends. So yeah, with that they actually leave the Chao garden. And that's when they run into Eggman, who is now riding on top of Dagago, and threatens to attack them with his giant robot if they don't hand over the Chaos Emerald that they found. And immediately discern what happened and try to dissuade him from attacking, pointing out they didn't really have a Chaos Emerald. He's a little bit. They point out that he's just a little bit confused and doesn't realize that they don't have a Chaos Emerald. But Dr. Eggman, of course, doesn't take no for an answer and attempts to attack them with the Daigo, which, because it's so big, accidentally slips and falls in the soft dirt around the riverbank and just falls right on its ass. Unfortunately, because it fell right on its ass, the resulting rock slide just caused a bunch of mud to wind up in the river and flow into the Chao Garden. And Chris and his friends quickly realize that they need to get the mud out of there, or the Chao will get very sick. So they head quickly into the Chao Garden to take care of that. Meanwhile, Dr. Eggman has Deco and Boko move the giant robot back out of the mountains and onto flat land, because they quickly realize that it doesn't work on slippery terrain, and they quickly move it out of the mountains and onto flat land so that they can actually clean it. However, while there, they actually have an encounter with Sonic, who has been doing souvenir shopping all day. I mentioned that. And when Sonic asks them what they were doing, they quickly remark that they were on vacation, which is technically true, but then but Sonic is a little bit skeptical because they just have a giant robot. And Eggman, realizing that Sonic doesn't believe them, immediately orders Z66 to attack Sonic, who immediately dodges, proclaims that they need to get through their thick skull, that they will never be able to outspeed him, and sure enough, destroys the Daigo in an instant. Meanwhile, Mr. Stewart, Mr. Tanaka, and Amy, who have been clued into the fact that the kids haven't come back yet, go to find Sonic, only to discover that he had kept himself busy and has already dealt with Dr. Eggman. And sure enough, asks him to go find the kids. And sure enough, he agrees and asks them to hold his souvenirs for them. So with that, he actually eventually finds the Chao Garden, and seeing what the kids are doing and how they're trying to clean it out using some sticks and a leaf to just sift it out, decides to volunteer and has them stand back so that he can use his speed to sift all the mud out, which gets them all filthy. At which point they go get changed and go back to camping. So and sure enough, once they get back to camp, Chris points out that Mr. Tanaka most likely knew about it the whole time, and Mr. Tanaka confirms that. He states that he saw it when he was a little boy, and Chris hopes that when he's grown, he'll actually be able to see it when he's older. And sure enough, because of Sonic, that's very likely a possibility. So in any case, yeah, Dr. Eggman was just here because he got confused, and she's just kind of got swept up in a current. So basically, this episode was just them trying to find cheese, and Dr. Eggman being a little bit confused as to what they're actually doing and not realizing that they were actually looking for a Chao, not a Chaos Emerald. I know they're kind of similar because of a relation, but it's just a little bit funny that he just kind of got confused and didn't realize that they weren't searching for what he thought they were searching for. So, yeah. This episode was basically just Eggman being an idiot. He assumed that it's interesting. I mean, the big thing about this episode is that just explains that Chao can apparently exist on Earth and live in secret, because obviously they need fresh water, and if people know about it, then it's going to become very polluted and they're going to get very sick, which is almost exactly what happens in this episode. So yeah, thank you, Richie. In any case, yeah, this episode was just to explain that Chao apparently just exists on Sonic X's Earth. It doesn't really explain it all that much, but apparently they just exist on Earth, and that's just canonically a thing now. So yeah, that would explain why there's so many Chao Gardens in Sonic Adventure, because we know that it's just like kind of just a big open city. So why are there just Chao Gardens? But yeah, it makes sense. I guess it makes sense from a lore perspective, but I don't know. It does make sense to me. I do like the idea of it. But in any case, yeah, that's my review of Sonic X. What did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also, be sure to follow me on Facebook and Twitter in the description below. And also, check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out, and you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks. I'm always saying thanks, so be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!